It's officially over. See, the new Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door remake has just been released, and with it comes a controversial change, to say the least. It's a bit of a well-known fact at this point that the character Vivian, one of Mario's companions in the game, was a male crossdresser in the original Japanese version, but was changed to be a biological female in the English release. However, the remake, rather than directly translate the original script and remove the censorship, actually went even farther in the other direction and made Vivian transgender. This situation on Vivian's gender identity has effectively turned into a three-way civil war, the sides being Girl Vivian, Trap Vivian, and Trans Vivian. And honestly, the entire situation is further eroding my will to live. Of course, femboy erasure is always a pain, but the worst part about this entire situation is that the Japanese version was also censored to remove references to Vivian being male. Yeah, it's not just the West that's getting bastardized edits to games, the Japanese have to deal with it now too. But I digress. Let's dive into the work itself and analyze what's going on here. Now, unfortunately, my Japanese isn't good enough to translate it all myself, so I'm going to have to use translations from third parties. As you can see, this is the real meat. In the original Japanese version, she says, "The thing is, I have a boy's body, but my heart is a cute girl's." Meanwhile, in the English version, it's, "Truth is, it took me a while to realize I was their sister, not their brother. Now their usual bullying feels heavier." Now, the original line can be interpreted as Vivian saying he's trans or a femboy. Personally, I think he's being metaphorical by saying he has the heart of a cute girl rather than saying that he was born in the wrong body or something. However, while that scene sort of leaves Vivian's gender identity a bit vague, there are several other lines which directly state that Vivian is male. For example, during the battle against the Shadow Sirens in Chapter 2, Goombella can tattle Vivian, which in the original Japanese version gives us this description. "It's Vivian, a member of the Shadow Trio and the youngest sister. No, wait, brother." So it looks like the rainbow flags will have to lynch Goombella for misgendering Vivian. Of course, assuming it's a misgendering at all, which we will imminently see that it isn't. As for the party member description, the original Japanese translates to a former member of the Shadow Trio. He may look like a girl, but he's actually a boy. This explicitly states that Vivian is a boy, and this is also a pretty reliable source since it's metatext. Basically, this is the developers themselves talking directly to the player. And finally, Vivian had a cameo appearance in Super Paper Mario, this game's sequel. There she appears on a card, and her original description translates as one of Mario's partners introduced in Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, a cute boy wielding fire magic who was once part of a group of enemies known as the Shadow Trio. As you can see, this also explicitly labels Vivian as male. Vivian, while being quite girly, was referred to as a male in the original Japanese version. Effectively, this is case closed. Vivian is a femboy, and the remake completely vandalizes his character. This new Switch remake also has a lot of other changes to make the game more politically correct. You can pause and read through these lines if you're interested, but basically all three were changed to be more feminist. However, this basically invalidates the people saying that Vivian being trans is more accurate, because they're all for changes like these since they only care about accuracy when it's something they like. Although, as we've established, trans Vivian isn't even accurate in the first place. What I find funny, though, is that this is basically a Bridget situation all over again. There's a character who existed a certain way for 20 years, but then they're changed on a dime to appeal to modern sensibilities. It's a real shame how this seems to be becoming a pattern. Another thing to keep in mind is that the kinds of people who are saying that Vivian is trans are the kinds of people who say that Astolfo is trans, and that sort of thing brings up a greater issue. Traps are a time-honored staple of Eastern media, and as Japanese video games and anime become more popular overseas, you're starting to see the LGBT activists imprint their own ideals on these types of characters. First it was Bridget, then Vivian, and if they get their way, they won't stop until every trap is trans. And unfortunately, this dystopic future seems inevitable at this point because as Westerners become more involved in Japanese anime and video games, you're starting to see a lot of these woke libtards defiling these products, vandalizing them with their own ideals. It started with just bad translations like Fire Emblem Fates and Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, but now in addition to translations, they're going directly to the source and coercing Japanese creators to make their works politically correct. As we are seeing with RGG Studio and their international standards, Square Enix with their ethics department, Guilty Gear Strive with Bridget, and now even Paper Mario with Vivian. Anyway, this whole situation is a bit of a downer, but I know for sure that I'm sticking with the original. The GameCube version is aged fine, its graphics are timeless, and its gameplay is a smooth 60 frames per second. And the translation has less issues overall. Ultimately, $60 for better graphics, choppier gameplay, and a butchered translation definitely doesn't seem worth it to me, especially when the money only goes to more bastardized products. So with that, I leave you all with one important piece of wisdom. Dolphins are cool animals. Also, be sure to shadow punch that like button and that subscribe button. Alright, and leave a comment if you think that Vivian is trans, or if you think he's a femboy, or if you just think he's better as a girl. Okay? Yeah, be sure to give me that engagement. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and goodbye.